And we're back here at Boom Bust with the monthly panel. We've got the Honourable Joe Oliver, former finance minister, the Honourable Gary Mar from Alberta. Gary, your turn to talk about this housing crisis. I'm sure you're feeling some of the effects of it in Alberta as well, but give us your perspective on it.
Yesterday, I was in a meeting with a number of home builders here in the city of Calgary, and they were talking about how the federal government talks about affordable housing, but many of the things that have been done by governments across Canada, it deal with the edges of it. They talk about foreign taxes, ownership taxes, and trying to tamp down the demand. And it's really a small measure. Nobody's really talking that much about supply, and there needs to be a stronger connectivity between the private sector, which can provide some of these solutions, and governments at all levels, not just municipally or provincially or federally, but they talk about the frustration of trying to get permits done. Here in the city of Calgary, it's taking months, in some cases more than a year, to be able to get a permit to build a house. And so some municipalities are starting to permit things like laneway houses and things like that. That is a start, but it is not a complete solution. But all three levels of government have to be working more with the private sector, in my view, to provide some of the solutions on dealing with the supply. Joe talked about immigration. If you've got hundreds of thousands of immigrants coming in and your supply is not keeping pace with that, that's obviously a real issue, to making sure that you have affordable housing.
Joe, is that right? From your perspective, supply's got to be the part of the solution?
Yeah, I think supply is absolutely crucial, and I'm familiar, of course, with the Toronto market in particular, and there was just a denial that supply was an issue, was a problem. But if you talk to builders, as Gary alluded to, they're extraordinarily frustrated. I mean, clearly from a business point of view, they want to do more, they want to build. That's the business they're in. But they're making a public policy point that if you don't let us build, where are people going to live? And if there aren't enough homes, then the people are confronted with a choice of renting a tiny condo downtown or suffering an hour and a half commute, or moving out of town where there are fewer job prospects. So this is impacting on an entire generation.
Joe, I'm going to stick with you. We were talking off air about this extraordinary situation in the U.S. where in the first quarter, the U.S. economy actually shrank. It contracted by 1.4%, which, if that were to be repeated in the second quarter at the end of June, that could mean a recession. So is this a temporary blip, or are you concerned about this as well? What's your thought when you saw that?
Well, you have to be concerned, and we don't want a recession, technical or not. I would never bet against the American economy. I think it has an enormous amount of resilience, but it's got pretty significant problems now, because their spending, interestingly enough, is a proportion to their GDP was greater than ours, and they've got more resilience. They can afford it better, but it does have an impact, and we're seeing that in an inflation rate of 7.9%. I mean, we're getting to numbers that are truly scary. And if you got that number combined with an economic downturn, which you have is stagflation, which of course is the worst of all worlds. So the Jay Powell, the chair of the Fed, has his work cut out for him, because he's facing very high inflation and an economic downturn. So the point being of all this is that you can't expect a central bank, monetary authority, to solve all the problems. Fiscal policy has to contribute as well. And we have that issue in Canada with a profligate spending program, and you can't expect Tiff Macklin, the chair of the Bank of Canada, to solve the entire problem. The two policies have to work together.
We'll continue the discussion after this brief break. Stay with us.